call the meeting to order. It is, oh gosh, Thursday, October 13th here at Alburnett City Hall. This is our regular city council meeting. First item on the agenda, we will stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the flag on the wall. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, we will have clerk do a roll call, please.
And Council Trump? Present. And Council Shantz?
Present.
Council Myers?
Present.
Please note that Bosenberg and West are currently not present. Thank you.
Okay, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum to conduct business tonight. Any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Perfect. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Shantz. Second by Trump. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Item number 5 is the sheriff's report. You do have that in your packet. So for the month of September, which was September 8th through October 13th, their required 43 hours of service were met with a total of 28 calls for service. Any questions on the sheriff's report? Concerns? I do notice they now have included the major's contact information on the bottom of the form, which is super handy. So if you do have any questions, get those to clerk and we will pass them along. Alright, next item is the mayor's report. I only have 2 things this month. One is I just want a huge thank you to city staff, especially Chris Shelby, for all the work to do the modernization, getting our systems updated, making sure everything's balanced, and then I appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that. I know the water bills looked a little bit different, took a little extra time making sure everything balanced out on the report, so we're moving in the right direction for that. We're going to start unlocking a lot of functionality that we don't have today in order to best serve our residents. So thank you everyone for your hard work and patience. Second is codification. This has been out for a while. I do apologize, it was with me for a very long time, but I've gotten through that, provided all of my notes and feedback back to the clerk, who's going to do a final review, and we will send that over to the firm that we contracted with to get those finalized. So we should have some work to do on the recod within, I would like to have that buttoned up by the end of the year if possible. Any questions on either of those items? And I'm happy to share my feedback. It won't make a lot of sense if you don't have the new code in front of you because it references exact numbers, but happy to share it out. Okay, that's all I have. Moving on to council reports. I'll start to my left with Councilor Myers.
Nothing.
Councilor Shantz. Councilor Trump.
Nothing to add.
All right. Item number 8 is citizen comments. So in the city of Alburnett, we have 2 types of comments, those for agenda-related items and then non-agenda-related items. We do ask that you state your name and address clearly for the record, and comments will be limited to 5 minutes. So if you are on the agenda, that's at a different time. So this is just if you have comments concerning an agenda item. So any comments for agenda-related items? Okay, hearing none. Comments for non-agenda related items? All right. Written reports. Chief Graham.
The only thing I have to add is we'll be doing trick or treating at the fire station. I just didn't know the time because we're waiting on you guys. So whenever you guys decide, then we're gonna do it.
Sounds good. You got everything for ISO? Because that's a big lift, right?
That's done. They said it'd be like 6 months before we got our report. There's a lot of stuff we can do to help it a little bit.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Right, any
And
question? Oh, sorry.
I just noticed it tonight, but the farmer behind us uses our approach and goes through the park area with this combine and tractors. I don't think you can go off for concrete, but big heavy equipment, I don't know.
I think we talked about putting an approach on the other side of the well house.
We have, but there's so many what ifs on that, and we did landlock him when we built that fire station, so we're gonna have to have a little bit of leeway there, and
Is
yes.
there a way to go off one of the city streets? But
That's what he was intending to do when I talked to him, was to go off the end of Willow, so he's actually going through the,
he pulled right in and went right off the edge of the, and they're hooking up the head to the
yeah,
combine in the park area.
yeah, that won't hurt anything, cause the
No.
empty combine, but when they're leaving with loaded truck, but quite honestly, if they're not overloading, they're not putting any more axle pressure on the concrete than your
And there's
trucks
just a
are
little
loaded.
lip from the concrete to the grass, I just,
Yep, yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to walk a tightrope there because he does have access, he needs to have access there, and we have restricted that. There's gonna have to be some things worked out, and yes, we talked about putting in an approach, but how much money do we wanna spend on an approach if there is a possibility of development, and that approach becomes a actual city street, then it's a completely different, you know.
I'm gonna call pause for us. Oh, deputy, come on in, sir.
Good afternoon, I should say evening now.
Evening's close enough.
Yeah.
We've addressed your report, we do have it here in our packet, so, appreciate you stopping in. Anything of note for you?
No, just, we met the town hours, looks like we had 28 calls for service out here this last month, so.
As far as I know, everything's running smoothly, we appreciate you guys being in town, I see quite a bit before and after school, which is nice, that's what we
Good.
seem to have a lot of.
I think that's
We
addressed
need,
in
we need
last.
the extra patrol then, so. Awesome. Anything for the deputy? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, you guys have a good night.
Have a safe night.
Take care.
Alright, but it does sound like consideration when we start looking at park space.
Oh,
So-
definitely, yeah, without a doubt. I talked with the farmer, prior, probably 3 weeks ago, and we tried to, the intention at that point was he would try and come off of Willow Street as much as possible, but quite honestly, Willow Street is no heavier concrete than the fire station drive, so going off the edge to the grass, yes, is kind of a concern. I'm hoping that the loads will go out,
Yeah,
down Willow.
I don't know,
but-
I said, 'cause I saw it happen tonight, I didn't
Yep.
know.
Yep. So I will kind of stay in touch with that situation.
Perfect. Cause when we get to CIP, we'll talk park a little bit and kind of put a timeline on
Yep.
that, so.
Yep.
Alright, anything else for chief? Appreciate everything you do. Next item is public works.
Only thing I would add is, HR Green was here and did a little training with me on our GIS system. There's a little sample of what it looks like. The water system is just going off of maps we provided, to them, so there's no actual, GPS coordinates that they actually, put in place, but the sewer we had a full inspection, everything was GPSed to centimeter grade accuracy, and so everything's in place. The camera work we did, about a month ago, that information will be fed into the system to complete the sewer part, and I'm in the process, you can
Were there any
possibly.
findings from that camera work?
There was no major leaks, no evidence of major leaks. There was one, offset, they call it, where the pipe meets the manhole, that's a little bit out of skew, but it doesn't appear to be leaking. There's no evidence of leaks. There's one area in the interceptor line that has a little bit of a belly, and it has some debris in it, probably from all the construction upstream. That once the crop is out, we might have Roto-Rooter come back in and just jet that out. It's not really hurting anything. It isn't holding up. Everything's managing to get through, but no reason to let it sit there. But there's no use destroying crop to get it done either. But, in the water system, you know, a lot of it's very accurate. I'm currently trying to work on this area right here and clean up what they got off the maps is not in the right place, so this looks a mess. And it is a mess because I've been trying to do my work and I'm not fully trained up yet, so I got a little more work to do. But we did
I'm
talk
sure you love
about
hearing that too, right?
next summer, you know, and I don't know what the hourly rate was, but Matt made it sound like one hard day would actually put that centimeter accuracy locate on all of our hydrants and all of our valves. You know, they could just come in and do all that, and then when that's done, it's pretty easy to draw the lines on the mains if they're a little bit out of whack. We can get them in the right spots, so that would be something I'd probably find out what the estimated cost would be and hit you up first thing in the spring to do. But that was the only thing not on my report I wanted to bring up.
What areas did they use the camera for valves?
They, from the manhole across the road from the main lift station, they went over to Old Quas Road and all the way up to Pierce Tobin's shop. Cause I didn't have any maps on that.
Can you show it on there?
Yep. So they would have started at this manhole, right up here, down to the corner, all the way up here to the railroad tracks in this area. Also, from that same manhole, the southwest interceptor line, which follows all the way up here to the tracks, does a jog, and across the tracks, and then goes all the way up to Roosevelt Street. So we did all of that. And then the last portion is a portion that hasn't been previously lined, is from this manhole by the bus barn through Morrison Trucking and the co-op all the way to, I think we only went as far as the manhole that's, not that one, the one that's down here by the bends. So that's what we got for our camera work, so to speak. So it was 6,500 feet, I believe, that they did all together. So,
Nice one. Thank you, I appreciate it.
yep.
Notice it was quite a bill, that's the reason I wondered.
Yep, yeah, it's $1 a foot basically, and then there was an extra charge because we had to use their off-road vehicle to camera out there in the field. So he basically did it all with the off-road vehicle, rather than bringing 2 rigs, but there's an upcharge for the off-road. It's a $750 static fee for that, so.
That's good information to have, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, it's good. There's, like I said, that debris in the interceptor line should probably be flushed, and at some point, if there's any reason to dig, the offset in the pipe to the manhole is right here at this manhole behind the bus barn. So we'll just keep it, you know, keep an eye on it, and if we have to dig for any reason in that neighborhood, we'll go in and fix it. That's what it boils down to, so this is gonna be very handy. And then all of the information that we do, like I said, all that information I got from the camera truck, I can even upload the video that they provide to me to that stretch of pipe. And so I can basically, if we click on one of these pipes, and I don't know if I can do it here, have to zoom in a little bit.
Adds it as like an asset to that.
Yes, you basically, when you click on that pipe, it's gonna give you that information, and there's a lot of areas there, and it tells what the manhole condition is, where it goes, and all that stuff. We can upload a video to that stretch of pipe, and then that way, if we're wondering, for example, where this new building's supposed to go on Main, we were trying to find the old service line. It took us probably 20 times longer to figure out, yes, there was a service there, but it didn't get reinstated after that main was lined, because there was no building there. So the house got torn down in 2009, the lining project was in 2012, they didn't open that service back up, but it was still there. So we were able to find that information eventually after digging through all the maps. In this scenario, if we enter all the information we can, it should be a matter of sitting there on your phone and say, yep, there's a service line right here, and it's this many feet from the manhole.
Nice.
Would have been done, so. I think it'll be worth its weight in gold, especially the more information we put into it, the better.
Long term, and we're not relying on trial knowledge.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I have one other question not related to your report.
Okay.
There was another news article came out that the city of Dubuque has the
PFAS.
PFAS in the water. I know that was a concern in Central City, so just for the record, our tests are all
Yes.
good, right?
It was earlier this summer that our PFAS tests were taken, which is a once every 3 years for us, I believe. And yeah, they were non-detectable, so,
And I'm sure that's in our water report, but
yep, it is,
if it hit in the news, it's worth calling out. So.
absolutely.
All right, anything else for Guy? Okay, moving on to city clerk report.
Nothing really to add, just gonna say thanks for letting me get all that training done. Next training sessions will be in the spring, and so, because we'll be doing budgets and everything else in the meantime. But looking forward to finishing my certification. And we can,
Any questions for Chris? It is quite the report. He's been a busy beaver. All right, hearing none. Move on to the consent agenda. Oh, did you have any comments on the TIF stuff you've been working on, or do we want to save that for next month?
that was put in there just so that you could be reminded that we will need to renew that in the next meeting. So kind of look at where we're at. I'm getting new data from the Secure Financial that I'll be able to, provide for you all so that you can look at it before council. But it is something that we do need to make a decision on.
Appreciate having that so far in advance. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any additions, changes, removals of bills? Anything we said we're not paying? Thank you. No added bills or anything, Chris?
There are none.
Alright. Seek a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved by Schultz, second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Alright, new business. Recognize our visitor, HR Green, with the street condition report. Happy you're here.
Would anybody like a physical copy? I printed off some extras. I got enough for everybody.
I'm good, thank you though.
Anybody? No? Okay. Alright, well, I just wanted to go through the findings with you really quickly. Count's doing pretty well. Alburnett has an overall score, as we call it PCI, Pavement Condition Index, which is compiled from the Iowa Pavement Management Program. They drive city streets throughout the state every 2 years. 4 in some areas. You guys are probably covered as part of Lynn County. They have opted in for the every other year cycle. But so we have data from last year that was collected on city streets. And so we've gone through that and helped put together kind of an assessment of where the streets are at and what needs to be done to improve them or keep them in working order. This is a very important thing. We call it pavement management. It's a process, I want to say. Just because I hand off this report doesn't mean that you are done taking care of your roads. You will have to be fixing your roads forever. And that means pavement management has to be a part of that process. So this is just helping to use data and do it in a more objective manner. So right now, streets look pretty good. You got a 72 out of 100 score, which puts you in the top 10% of all cities in Iowa. So it's pretty easy to have that high of a score when you're this small and you've got a lot of relatively
Don't
new
take it away from
concrete
us.
streets.
Yeah, you're
But
roll there.
it looks good, having such a high score. You get to you know, when Cedar Rapids is just down the road and they've consistently been one of the worst in the state, you know, you look really, really good by comparison. So you've got a few outstanding. We got that little 10% that's in poor and very poor condition in the older parts of town that weren't designed with proper drainage and were probably built a very, very long time ago. So it's not surprising that there's a few outstanding projects. And I understand that you recently did Moohart, which was another outstanding project, and that helps bring up your overall score, having recently redone such a big stretch of road. So just going through the sections real quick. Introduction tells you the same stuff that I was just talking about, what pavement management is and why it's important. We go through our methodology. I like to be very transparent. This isn't a black box where I'm trying to bamboozle you with how I got there. I try to be very clear with how we arrive at these conclusions and what we recommend. As far as scores go, I like to highlight the figures that start on page 9, where we go through the different condition categories. It's really nice to see examples of streets so that you know what a 72 is. I get a lot of people worried. They're like, 72, that's only a C for my kids at school. 72 is great. It's in good condition. It's kind of halfway up the scale to good condition. And I would never recommend a community maintain anything above 80, because then you're just throwing money away at things that are already doing very, very well. So 72 is a good place to be. That is not a C, that is a fantastic grade. So this is a very good condition. Moohart, you know what it looks like, it's beautiful. You guys are the one step below that in good condition, where there might be a few cracks here and there, but it's very drivable, you don't notice it. So this is 3rd Avenue. This is good. There's a crack. There's maybe a small patch that had like a chip taken out by a snowplow or something. It's fine. That's a good place to be. So there's some more pictures going through what the other ones look like, and we get down into the fair condition. I like fair condition streets as well. Those are very affordable to handle. That's when you want to start doing stuff to streets. You don't want to wait for them to get bad and you start getting complaints. That's too late, and it's going to be expensive. So you want to get to it here, not later, because that's going to be the cheapest time. So fair streets are a good place to have a big chunk of your community. And then we get into poor. This is North Street. Cracking's a little all over the place. There's some broken up panels that are in sections, and it's not exactly a smooth ride. You've got some drainage issues where you have water ponding in the gutters. We don't like that because that tends to make things worse very quickly. So that's one of the ones that we're tracking now as part of the recommended projects. And then the very poor category, this is First Street. There are sections of this that are in some more immediate need. Unfortunately, this is the most expensive time to address things because there's probably no saving those parts of First Street without rebuilding it entirely. Which is okay, because I understand you've got some water main needs in that area, so we can probably tack those together. But it's going to be expensive. So we get through that. The next section is just talking about the kinds of things that you can do to repair streets. I call this the toolbox, just putting out the options and what they are and when they are applicable, so that you all know the current state of practice and how to best manage streets affordably. I'm not going to go through it in extreme detail.
I didn't see gravel on there, like, is that, we just core it all out and,
We tend not to consider gravel as part of pavement management report because it's not a pavement.
well done.
But you know, you still have to manage those. There's some categories of streets that I like to make note of if there are a lot of gravel, brick, or even seal coat streets that are bituminous material put directly on the dirt without much preparation. Those ones are what I like to call reactive, where I have no idea what they're going to do year in, year out. They might be fine for 10 years and all of a sudden they blow up and you get 100 complaints on them. That's it. Like it depends, and there's no predicting how a brick street, a gravel street, a seal coat street react. And so the best practice is just keep an eye on those ones and budget for it. You know, just hold some money aside for when those come due. So, but you don't have a lot of gravel streets. I think there's only like one.
Just some seal coat,
Yeah,
One
and there's,
seal
and
coat.
there's 2 small stubs of seal coat.
Yeah.
I like to break the different treatments into 3 different categories. I don't want to go super in depth in the different treatments, but I will talk about the categories. We've got reconstruction. That's the big expensive one where you tear it up, put it all back brand new, like what you just did with Moonheart. We have rehabilitation, major and minor. Major is when we start adding structural improvements. Those are typically asphalt overlays. And, you know, when you're adding material to thicken it up and, you know, cover up the problems, and hopefully buy yourself 15, 20 years before you need to probably rebuild it. And then minor ones are things that are thinner amounts of asphalt, or maybe you do panel repair where you dig up certain parts of concrete streets and put them back and try and get ahead of the problems before they start to spread. And that's a very cost-effective option. So major and minor rehabs are great. And then we have our third category, which is restoration, and that is just crack sealing and patching, which should be a part of everybody's toolbox. Always make sure that you are sealing your cracks, patching your potholes, so they don't get worse. So once we pass the categories, we can keep going.
And we wait. Catch up.
The next section gets probably a little too technical. This is for Guy. This is talking about construction standards and the proper way to build a street. And this is important for when you have reconstruction projects like Moonheart, but also as you are expecting new development. I don't know what the timeline is on the new development, but when it comes, you would like your developers to be putting streets in the right way, because it's going to be your problem for the next 1,000 years, and they only have to deal with it for 1 year. So they're going to do it cheap, and you would prefer that they do it right. You have construction standards in your code. It's good that that is there. There's a lot of communities that don't have that there. But I do have one big recommendation, and that is SUDAS, Statewide Urban Design and Specifications. We have a very, very good program here in the state of Iowa that very few other states have available. I think the only comparable state is Florida, of all places, where Iowa State University, in partnership with the DOT, has been doing research into municipal activities, not just roads, but water, storm, sewer, sanitary, all sorts of stuff. And they have been doing this in a way to standardize specifications and design guidelines statewide. And that is really good because it saves you the effort of maintaining and updating code to match current best practices, current technologies, and all that stuff. So it stays up to date all the time. It gets probably a new update once or twice a year with all the newest stuff. And I have, like, the best part about it is that all the contractors around here are very familiar with SUDAS, which if they feel comfortable and you're using SUDAS, that means that they will give you lower bids, because they go, yes, I know those standards, I don't even need to think about it. I don't need to read those specifications because I know them by heart. And so I recommend every community in Iowa just take that part of their code that starts going through specification, you just strike that and you say, see SUDAS.
Bingo.
Good timing.
So that's my recommendation. There was one thing that came out in conversations with Guy, is that you have some poor soils in the area. I understand that the minimum requirements for what's called sub-base material, this is the rock that you put underneath the pavement, code currently does not require any sub-base. Guy would prefer 12 to 18 inches because you got some very poor soils. SUDAS requires 6 at a minimum. If you want adjustments like that 18-inch, you would put a supplemental specification. So maybe C SUDAS, except for sub-base, which might be 118, which is fine. It's an it's an upsell, and you know, it's not cheap to do that much extra rock as well as moving the dirt to get that there. But at the end of this part where I talk about all the benefits of the different design changes between your existing code and why it's a good idea and the benefit cost ratio, this benefit cost ratio analysis is based on SUDAS minimum requirements. This is not based on the 18-inch of rock. That basically means you break even on the cost benefit analysis, which I don't like showing, but if it's between that and your pavement blowing up and failing, we'd much rather you do it the right way that actually works. So that's perfectly fine.
I just think we need to be, when we write that into our code, it definitely needs to be addressed, whether with roll testing and other testing.
Mm-hmm.
Might not need to be a full 18-inch on every project,
Mhm.
but it needs to be known that it's gonna be more than the standard.
Yeah.
From
And
what I've seen.
I do have a part in there as well about subgrade stabilization, which might be a route forward that could, basically, between making your pavement thicker, your subbase thicker, or doing a better job on the subgrade prep, one of those three things will probably solve your problem, and it can be a balance. It can be all in one and not very much in the other. So I recommend the CBR, California Bearing Ratio. That's a measure of how compacted the dirt is underneath there. We recommend a minimum of 9 or 10 based on SUDAS research. And if you do that, then you probably only need the 6. But that might be unattainable if you've got a lot of organic materials, at which point more rock is probably the way to go. But sometimes you can get away with geogrid, fly ash, slag. There's things that you can put in the dirt to make it a little bit stiffer.
At least we're fortunate rock is readily available close by.
Mhm.
We're not hauling it 75 miles and,
I have acknowledged the 12 to 18 inches, it just
Mhm.
doesn't appear in that calculation.
Yeah.
There's a note right after that.
You are available, aren't you, for questions at the time?
when we get to this point.
Yes.
Yes.
Alright, so after this extremely technical part, we get into the more fun stuff, I believe. This is still the cost benefit analysis.
You wanna be.
We don't need to go through that. Let's talk about condition analysis, looking great. We just broken it down here a little bit differently. Yeah, we can just keep moving through that. This is just showing the different pavement types that you have in the community. It's mostly concrete. This is the condition rating of all the streets in town, as well as I had one of our staff engineers go through and assess drainage on each of the streets, because it's often one of the major points of failure in towns like Alburnett is just, does the water have someplace to go? If it doesn't, that usually is what creates most of the problems. And so you're actually doing pretty well. I think there's only a few places in town where they need some drainage improvements. First Street being the big one, and it's probably why it needs it. I'm not going to necessarily highlight anything here. That's your late night reading. If you want to pick out some pet projects to start looking at in the future, that's a good place to start. The next table is the exact same thing. It's just ordered by name rather than score. So that was like from worst to best. And then this next one is just so it's easier to find the one that you're looking for. I will note that there are some areas in town that have not been driven by the IPMP program yet. Those are your brand new that development up in the northwest part. Those just haven't made it on any state maps, so they didn't know that they needed to do that. That should be different for the next go around in 23. So I'm not worried about those ones. They're brand new. They should be, 90 to 100. So if anything, your score is probably higher than 72. All right. We already saw that quick graph breaking everything down. We split out the different pavement types. This is historical performance. You're actually up significantly. So you've been getting data every 2 years since 2013. And we started at 64, we ended at 72. Boot Street, that's why. That's a big jump. And so, you're doing great. We just had that little bit of First Street show up in the very poor category for the first time as well in this past go around, because it's starting to get worse faster. We got some maps on the following pages showing the condition distribution throughout town. This TV kind of shifts that red into the purple zone and makes it hard to read. But yeah, we can see our First Street has that little bit of red there. There's orange on the other side of the railroad tracks. Roosevelt is in fair condition, and then Howard Street is kind of in that borderline area. So those are our probably biggest concerns at the moment. The next few pages are looking at specific types of distresses. This one I believe is ride quality. I should probably look at my map a little bit easier. Yes, ride quality. So red is bumpy, blue is smooth. It's pretty straightforward. The only thing surprising on there is that section, what was that?
I think North Street
North
must
Street?
have got driven before we overlaid it.
Yeah.
Because it's been overlaid, so I'm assuming that's why it's showing bumpy there and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so depending on when that overlay happened, we might draw it in a weird spot.
Yeah, I think that was last summer, early.
It's funny because it looks like it's in good condition. I wonder, IRI can be a little inconsistent in smaller communities where they have to drive slowly. It messes with the sensors, and so often they'll throw that out. So that might actually be from 2017.
Oh, okay.
If
That's
they
just possible.
If they just carried that forward, if they got a bad year.
Mhm.
So that means our number goes up.
Yeah, so then our number's even higher, yeah.
That's good.
Alright, and then the next one is pavement cracking. These are areas of denser cracking. Ah, see, there's North Street again. There's, you know,
Yeah,
they probably just caught it right before the overlay.
I must have.
But so, we're seeing First Street, we're seeing Roosevelt kind of on the east end, has a higher propensity of cracking. And then that, yeah. So, just kind of helps you identify areas if you're not going to do full blocks, but it helps tell the story of why the numbers are the way they are. If you ever want me to explain how the calculation is done, I actually served on the subcommittee that developed it, so I can probably go in way too much depth on that. This is pavement rutting. That is the depth of that little dip that happens where people drive. You know, usually you see on asphalt pavements most commonly, where you drive, there's usually like a little dip where the people's wheels always go. That's called rutting. And anywhere that we should hopefully not see very much rutting on concrete pavements because it's very unusual. And fortunately we don't. We're seeing it's pretty smooth everywhere. There's that section of North Street. And there's that tiny bit up in the top left part. I believe that is a section of asphalt road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why. Final section right here we're getting into is the fun part. Oh, that's pavement failures, it's potholes and whatnot. Not very many. This is looking at, alright, let's start trying to address some of these. The first thing is what I call a needs calculation. If you were to fix everything in town that needs work today, how much would that cost? And the answer is about $1.6 million to fix everything. It's usually not feasible to fix everything. I don't know any community that has enough money sitting around to do that. So you need to break it up over time and try and stay ahead. I don't even ask most communities to ever clear that number. It's okay to have some backlog. It's just, we don't want that number to go up over time. So since we're at 72, and 72 looks and feels pretty good, let's keep that number at about 1.6 million and don't let it go up. But if we kind of plan, all right, maybe every 10 years we spend about that much money, that's probably a good goal. So we're looking at about $100,000 to $150,000 a year in roadway repairs. And that goes into our proposed capital improvement plan. We did one option at 100 and one option at 150. We also identify a few of your longer term projects that probably can't be afforded immediately, but we want to be thinking about. So one of the higher priority ones is that section of First Street. We probably want to reconstruct that, but that's going to be pricey, and we can't do the other half of First Street. So, but that's, maybe we push that out into year 6 or 7. Just be planning for that. This has, I think, Roosevelt appears in it, but Howard does not. Howard appears right at the end of it, if you do the 150 option. You get through some of those higher priority things sooner if you spend that extra 50%. So, this is just kind of what we're doing, and we're trying to keep in mind that you have other needs outside of what's immediately here. There are utility concerns and whatnot. But so this is our first pass at a 5-year plan of what streets to do and how to address them. Might need some time to absorb. You don't have to do this. This is my recommendation for your CIP development. You can always choose to do different things.
Right.
I love the data-driven approach, so it's all good to have.
So,
Could I have a copy?
Hmm?
Could I have a copy, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah, leave a few hard copies for us.
See, I knew you were gonna want them.
Late night reading, right?
Does everybody want a hard copy, or just you two?
I do not.
Might as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do you like one?
I'm fine, thank you, though.
All right, and then after we get out of capital improvement plan, we've got some. We're just summarizing the capital improvement plan in a few different ways. I also like to mention that it's good to set goals and specific performance metrics that you hold yourselves against. I told you this is a process that should be revisited and checked in on every once in a while. And so right now it's just, okay, make sure we're spending at least that $100,000 a year and keeping our PCI score above 70 where it is now. And so if those are our goals, we can track that. In 2 years when you get new data, 4 years, when you next reassess this program, are you still meeting those goals? To see if you need to push a little bit more in one way or the other.
So that number comes directly from that state data, or is
Yep.
that something, okay.
Correct. Which again, fantastic program. Iowa's one of 2 states that has this publicly available data just for free. You just get it, and that's really nice to have. Everybody else has to hire third-party vendors and whatnot to do this kind of stuff. Or I have to hire sub-consultants, and it's a whole thing. So free data is really, really neat, and communities should be taking advantage of it. So this is projects by year. Red is sooner, purple is later, and then this is based on the 150 option. And then the next page is the same projects, but showing the type recommended for them. And then after this is my warning that new roads are not free. It's something that a lot of communities get very excited about. They're like, we love development. Give us all of the development. And they forget the part where every new mile of street that you add to your system is a liability to the city government. That is something you are now in charge of and have to pay for. And that's how you end up like Cedar Rapids, where a bunch of development happens and you forget to increase your budget for 30 years, and you end up really, really far in the hole. We don't want to turn out like that. We want to stay on top of it. So if you get a mile of new roads, that means you need to spend, on average, about $90,000 extra more in a year to stay level. So and the reason why that number is so scary compared to what I was recommending of that like 150 budget is your system is less than 5 miles. So a mile of development is a 20% growth. And that could be just one subdivision can add a lot of pavement. So just keep in mind, new roads are liabilities. They bring new tax revenues, that's great. Just don't forget to update your budgets. And next 2 pages are just maps showing the difference over the last 10 years in development. Most notably that northwest area is all new. And then the final page is, I'm not going to leave you with just, okay, now you have a problem to fix. I would like to offer you some opportunities to address them monetarily. So these are some funding opportunities that are available. you are currently a part of the Lynn County Local Option Sales Tax. That's how Cedar Rapids funds their program that I manage. I don't know where that money goes. It probably goes straight into your general fund or probably to property tax abatement.
That's where it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe because you're a part of Lynn County, they have foolishly set a sunset date. I don't think that is going to be up for another 5 or 6 years, but just if it is not approved at that time, you will probably be required to put at least 50% of that money to property tax abatement and not towards any public improvements. And so you probably want to encourage your citizens to pass that referendum.
I think we're gonna vote on it in like 2024, I believe we're due to vote.
Okay. It's like Cedar Rapids just renewed theirs last year.
Ours is 24, I believe.
But yeah,
I
so
could be wrong. We just gotta make sure they vote yes.
That's right.
so yeah, you don't want to be giving up that, especially since you're probably getting more from that than your citizens are paying. But so there's a couple different funding sources on here, and then I get into grant opportunities. There's a lot of them out there, and there's probably going to be more in the very near future with the infrastructure bill and the other funding bill that's working its way through. The one caveat I will put, I have all the deadlines here. I like to keep track of those in my own records to know when I need to apply for things to help our member communities. Most of these deadlines are nonsense at the moment, because if you were to talk to your RPA or the local MPO or the state DOT and you're like, hey, I want to apply for this grant, they're going to tell you, we don't know the future of our funding and where the money's going and where it's coming from right now. Everything is really up in the air and they're very confused, and so everybody is pushing it. I think Iowa DOT skipped out on a bunch of grants last year. They just didn't administer them. I know that I'm running into that with some Safe Routes to School program stuff and some like STBG, State Development Block Grant stuff right now. They're just being, I don't know, indefinitely on hold until they finally figure out where the money is coming from and how they're going to put it out into the world. So it's kind of ironic that we have this giant infusion of money that has somehow gotten in the way of anybody actually getting any money. So that's, and that ends my report.
That's awesome.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, thank you.
Very comprehensive, we appreciate it.
Impressive.
Do you have any questions?
After I read this, I'm gonna give you a test.
The one thing that obviously we were not looking for is, for example, First Street, if we do a reconstruction, water main is not included in that cost when
Right,
you're.
that's just the street.
Yeah, that's just the street, so, that's just something I would say, keep in mind, that if we're gonna go down that road eventually, and I think it's probably gonna be a little longer than what they've got planned, but because of that, because of the water main, that added cost.
And
Yeah,
might make sense to do all of it in one go, rather.
Yeah.
Well, there's a railroad there, and
Yeah, so
I
there's a
always
stopping
hate
point.
dealing with railroads. It's a good place to break projects because
yep,
getting a railroad to sign off on stuff
Yeah,
is
no.
awful.
and the main doesn't cross, so, right there, that is perfect to cut it into sections, so. Yep, cool,
Awesome,
that's awesome information, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well,
appreciate it.
if anything else comes up in the meantime, Guy has my information. We'll look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good night.
You as well.
Nicely presented, thank you.
Local option sales tax expires June 30th, 2024.
There you go, you were correct, 2024. You second guessed yourself. All right, 11B, IEMSA conference for Brenda and Berna.
They wanna go to a class or a conference, it's 4 days, November 9th through the 12th. It's pricey, it's $370 a person, so there's several classes they're taking. And then a hotel room, it comes up to $1,259.12.
Each or
That'd be
total?
total.
What was that amount?
$1,259.12. I guess we eat food at night. They have lunch included, I think,
How long is the conference?
from the 9th through the 12th.
Budget available, do you have that for me?
He's got it in his budget, we can pull it out if we need to,
He's got training budget available.
yeah.
Any questions for Steve?
Do we need a motion or?
Don't forget about their meals and stuff, you might have to set a cushion in your motion when you make it.
So,
We do a per diem, don't we? Or is it
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, either that or you can set a,
1,400,
or not to exceed number.
not to exceed,
Right.
that's what I would do. I would say not to exceed 1,400, that should be more than enough.
Yeah, because the lunches, I think, are in the thing.
Yeah, and if they stay at a hotel that has breakfast,
Friday and Saturday, 2-day lunch pass. Is it included?
So only about 3 or 4 meals.
does the conference provide like, they got block hotels, or is it just,
I think, I don't know. I think so. Friday and Saturday paid for the hotel, I don't know.
can you send me that information? Or,
make it into a paper airplane and send it, where is, did I miss where?
It's Des Moines.
Okay,
okay.
Downtown, I know they're staying downtown somewhere. The Hilton Des Moines downtown. You can walk to the conference, you know.
That's the only hotel still connected to the event center.
And there's lots along down that area, so, yeah, I'd say 1,400 is a day.
I'd seek a motion to approve sending Brenda and Verna to the IEMSA conference in Des Moines, November 9th through 12th. Did I write that down correctly?
Yep.
Conference costs is just over 1,200 plus meals, so not to exceed 1,400.
So
Moved by Myers,
Second.
second by Tron. Any further discussion?
I think we should do it because I think training is good.
Yeah, and those two don't go very often, so.
And we need all the training we can get. It's always beneficial.
Alright, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Alright, 11C, discuss plat parcel split request within 2-mile radius. You will have a hard copy of this. Okay, what do we got here? We know what roads this is
North
on.
On North Marion, it would be
The first road west of town.
first road, yep, and north,
How far?
and about 7/8 of a mile north.
Real close to my place.
Maybe they don't know where you live. Hold on.
So
Oh, I
it'd
see
be on the east side of the road then evidently.
Yeah, it's, I'm getting to it right now. As soon as the map comes up, we'll be able to back out just a little bit here. Oops, not that way. It would be somewhere in this square. Is where where they're asking for the parcel split. So there's already 3 houses right in this area.
Okay.
where are we at?
Just south of Round Grove Road, so in this square where my cursor is on the screen,
Could you,
that's it.
go down to, going out of town?
Burnett Station,
Yeah, then go north so we can see how far it is.
there's Burnett Station,
That'd be easier. I got a better feel for it that way.
yep. There's Burnett Station, we approved a parcel split for this one 3 years ago or so. And, yeah, so,
For sure it's Elmer Flichten's house.
it
So is
is,
it that,
Right,
it is,
property there?
that's what they're asking for. So it's, I don't know exactly, I'd have to, because we're getting footages here, but it's somewhere in this property,
It's 2.2 acres, so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just the building site.
Would that be on the north
Oh,
side
okay.
or?
It doesn't,
Well,
I-
basically it has
It
the
isn't
hou-
that specific, so
Can
I
you
don't-
zoom in up any closer?
Yeah,
So it basically just has the house and a building to the north of it on this.
hold on a minute.
Would it be on the
Yeah, in
side?
fact, her house sits alone, there's no other building there, Eleanor's house. And this is Morrison's property here,
Yeah, it's
so,
just
so it would be in this, somewhere here, I'm assuming,
50,
So it's
about
on the
50 to
east
60
side of the
feet
road.
south of the house is where the property line starts.
yep,
It's on the east side of the road then.
east side of the road, yeah. Northwest quarter of the northwest quarter, so, yeah,
it's not gonna impede on our development. We're not far out, so.
I don't know,
would
how long is your vision? Can you
Not quite that
envision
long.
300
Did
years
you hear what
from
it
now?
costs per mile of street? Not quite that long.
Alright, fine.
Alright, I would seek a motion to approve the plat parcel split as requested.
So
Which is
moved.
third address condition, right?
Yes, for
So moved.
which third, I had a motion from Sean, so I'll take a second from Trum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Alright, 11D, set date and time for trick or treating. So Halloween this year is on a Monday, I believe, double checking, yes.
Yep.
So traditionally, we have done it on Halloween, generally from 5 to 7. 2 hours seems to be sufficient. It gives working families time to get home, but it's not so late. But pleasure of the council on date and time for trick or treating.
Can we table this to next month?
Yeah.
How about I move we have trick or treating Monday, October 31st from 5 to 7 p.m.
Motion by Trump,
Second.
second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let the social media onslaught begin. Alright, 12, old business. Item A, set public hearing for ordinance updates. Sub-bullet 1 is for the housing code. So this is in relation to, we approved last month to continue with Lynn County Building Department for rental housing inspections as well as property maintenance code enforcement. What you have in your packet is the draft of the property maintenance code and the housing code, along with the 28E agreement. These are currently being reviewed by the attorney. On the 28E, I did highlight a couple of things that I would want to see changed or spelled out. So the attorney's working through my comments. I've asked him to have that back to me by the 24th of October, so that we can get all that published to hopefully, I was hoping we could have these public hearings at our November meeting. So, tonight, our only action, I wanted you guys to have this language so that you could review it as well, knowing that it is pending attorney approval. And then I would look to set our public hearings so we can get those published. So those would be on November 10th at 7 p.m. would be my proposal. They are two separate codes that we will need to adopt. Therefore, I do have them on the agenda for separate public hearings, so we'll do them as separate motions.
Who can call the building inspectors for house, just period? Not a rental, but a regular house.
I believe it has to come from us, so that is
I'm
in,
just saying that's important.
yes, that's in the property maintenance that only we can, the city.
It's very important we have that established as to. Otherwise, I don't like Joe, I could be calling up there.
You got a shingle off. Thanks, Chester.
That is in the 28E.
So that's the third document down here.
This is, I did ask for some clarification on the 28E because they're blending the two together. I can't tell what's property maintenance and what's,
Rental.
rental inspection. And so I've asked the attorney to make some recommendations.
So it says, and under inspections, 5.3, is
Yep.
that what you're looking for?
Customers will be directed to contact the city with complaints, concerns, and requests relating to property maintenance. Requests may be made.
It's the city that has to do it, okay?
Yep.
So then the guy's gonna have to go out and look and see if the shingle's really missing.
Just throw another hat on. One more
But
time.
you're not the code enforcement official, that gets
Nope.
defined here, so.
You're absolutely right.
Use eyes.
And that is something we've been needing for a long time, because the code as it stands today, without an appointed code enforcement official, is difficult to enforce. It's-
You just sick 'em on.
Do we need a motion to set the public hearing?
Yes, so I would seek a motion to set the public hearing for, the housing code ordinance for November 10th at 7 PM.
So moved.
Moved by Trump,
Second.
second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I would also seek a motion to set a public hearing for the property maintenance ordinance for November 10th, Thursday, November 10th at 7 PM.
So moved.
Moved by Trump,
Second.
second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. 12B, update, City Hall renovation and funding request.
We just got, quite honestly, I just opened it up now, cause it just came in late this afternoon, we
Oh,
got
I
it.
wasn't super impressed with that, so we can skip that.
Anyway, it's a rough idea for anyone that hasn't been following along as to what we're talking about as far as renovations, and timeline's still pretty vague as far as getting bid set out. I mean, they're getting closer, obviously, and Brian, the architect, has to have surgery soon, and so he's gonna be out a little bit, but, you know, we've made some changes as the plan has been built for various reasons. Shifting room sizes in the back, decided it's probably best to tear out the floor and replace it in there because of the plumbing that has to be done anyway, and the slope of the floor. It also aids in getting the proper supports for the beam to hold the support the ceiling to eliminate the posts, things like that.
Part of the floor are you talking about?
The whole floor on the south side of the building.
Just where City Hall will be, we won't touch the north
Yeah,
two
all
bays.
of
Just
this.
replace the entire floor.
He said
Because
it's
we're
cheaper
good.
than,
By the time we knock out enough to get the plumbing done, knock out enough to pour footings for the supports that need to hold the beam,
Just take a jackhammer
and then the center drain that has to be dealt with in that room, he feels it's way more cost effective, and then you get a flat floor, you get a better surface to put your, still thinking carpet tile, you know, or the carpet squares, whatever, and that, but, so that's a little bit of a change. Most of the rest has just been functionality things. Stuck the desk, you know, the desk you're sitting at now, stuck it in there and made a couple changes to a couple of the rooms to accommodate the desk, and so that's the orientation we're looking at right now. Crowd would be over in this area, maybe reuse the desk out front for myself in this corner. Chris then would be right here off the end of the chamber desk, so he would kind of be a part of the council scenario as far as being right there, and then still be working at his main workstation more or less, so he had access to all of his resources and tools, so
There'll be a window there that I'll be able to open and close.
Yep.
through to the vestibule for people to come in, talk little items, small items about having a drop box in that vestibule that does not enter the main room in case somebody wants to slide something nasty in.
Explosive.
You know, little things like that, just a lot of that conversation. And then one other big thing we talked about was the exterior treatment. Brian showed us a product that's called Longboard. I've never seen anything like it. It's like a really heavy duty aluminum siding, more or less. It's extruded aluminum, so it's very rigid, very durable, and it has it's gonna look wood grain. It's gonna look like boards. It's really unique. We were all quite impressed with it, but So the entire south half of the building then would be that longboard, but you also have to remember we have this huge business entrance out of it and some really big windows where, to the north. So there's really not that much of that product. It is pretty expensive, but there's only
So it's like
250
200
square feet
Square feet.
Yeah,
that needs covered.
There is an elevation if you keep scrolling.
Like I said, I didn't even get a chance to open
Yep,
this.
I
Yeah.
opened it earlier today. The new proposal, just so you know, guide does show wrapping around the corner a little bit, probably to cover that,
Mhm.
Yeah, I read that in the,
that door that's in there.
oh, I see, right there.
Right.
So wrap it around to cover where the current walk-in door is that will be,
can you zoom in on that lower left
Yeah.
illustration there?
This longboard stuff's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it was, he
Yeah,
had
it's-
samples, it was
It
really neat.
was, and it's, I mean, it's highly durable, so I mean, we're not gonna have to do anything with it for,
Yeah, it's maintenance free.
yeah.
so then you maintain the block on that north half, but then we, also added changing out the garage doors on the north half, and then to use a complementary style, color, whatever, to match up with that longboard.
Give it a little bit more character. The bricks today on the north and south half don't match anyway, so, and then
Okay.
there was some damage on the south half that we came to the conclusion we just need to reface the whole thing.
Yep.
But the north
So-
half is in good shape.
On the south wall, exterior wall, that's just gonna be brick then?
Except for a little bit of wraparound, just to cover that door. See, if you can see over here, this is new, this is what came in this email. He added the longboard just around the corner. And let's see, if we go
There's a
back,
service entrance there right now that we need to
Okay.
fill in.
that had to be covered, that has to be covered up
Oh,
anyway.
this one up here?
Yep.
Yeah, so
we're
right
filling
here,
that in.
continuing that longboard around just to cover up where that door would be. He said he could probably match the color of the brick up all right, but he would absolutely not be able to match the size.
Yeah,
So we could fill that doorway in and it would be the same color, but none of the grout lines would match up. So I never thought about that when we were talking about, but that's a pretty good idea to handle that.
And then we'll add a new exit out the back, just
Yep.
for safety purposes. There's a window there right now, so
again,
we'll
could
just
you
cut out.
zoom in on that color one we had before
Mhm.
and show that south wall so?
Yeah, well, if I go a little bit less, then you can see,
Yeah,
It didn't move. Did you do something?
and obviously, oh, it takes a little while. Oh, come on, not so much. There,
Okay.
and obviously they changed color, put two-toned the color, which,
Gotcha.
whatever.
We'll work
That's
on
all decisions to be made, but Yeah,
So
and-
Brian thought he could have us pricing, hopefully like a rough estimate by November, and then we could get out to bid in January or February for a summer,
sorry.
spring, summer
very
start.
good. Let,
Kind of
was this, let bids in the spring then? So-
Start in the spring, hopefully,
Yeah,
bid,
start in the spring.
So
through
you
the
start
winter
maybe
months.
January, February, let,
For bids.
Yeah.
Yep.
and then he basically said, hopefully we'd be in here long before our meeting the other day, so with the intention of hopefully being able to get in there by September. You know, cause it's not, we're not talking massive construction here, you know, so.
No.
But, yeah,
We'll make sure this gets shared out, 'cause it's nothing secret, knowing it's still getting tweaked a little bit.
Yeah.
And the funding update, part of that was, we were under the impression that the Lynn County was having their meeting yesterday about the remaining ARPA funds. We've not heard anything yet, so I was hoping to have good news. That was a preemptive
Alright.
wishful thinking, but, no news yet.
Yeah, all they've decided on right now is the first 3 million, they will not be deciding on the rest till whenever at this point. So we don't know.
get that ready to later,
More to come on that, fingers crossed, but regardless, it's a worthy project, so. Any questions on City Hall renovation? Funding TBD. Alright, with that, we'll move to discuss holiday committee and lights budget.
Yeah, so as we talked about with the holiday committee, one of the things that, you know, with COVID and other things, communities being outdoors, having outdoor spaces, having lighting that's, makes the town less dark, makes it more inviting. A good example is, I don't know how many of you have been down downtown Marion recently with the new fire pits that they have, that's in the middle of the main street, and they have benches that you can sit at, and it's very well lit, and they've got lights everywhere. This is something that they've noticed that adds to a community, not only to investors looking at community saying, hey, you know, is this a nice place to visit, is it cheery, and stuff like that, but again, also looking at the possibility of bringing community together. So one of the things the committee is looking to do is, we would, one, be getting new decorations. We would look at, you'd have a 3-foot snowflake on one side, you'd have a banner on the other side. The banner would be about 3 feet as well. There is a local gentleman in Center Point that printed their banners that will be able to do the same banners for us. So the cost is pretty minimal for what we're doing. The nice thing about that is the banners can be changed out for pretty much whatever we decide. So we were looking at doing 4 seasons, and then also for the different holidays like Veterans Holiday, the 4th of July, you know, those kind of things, doing either tributes to veterans, which would be where they would sign up for a list, they would go through that list, they'd have to make a donation, we would then get the banner, and then they'd have it up for that month. So this is something that we could expand this into, which again leads to that community pride, and you know, basically sprucing up the area for our main street. The other thing we're looking at for right now, just for the current holiday we're coming into, is I've talked to the business owners, they're okay with us putting, as long as we don't screw anything permanently in, but putting lights up, just white lights along the business facades or the awnings. And then also, you know, looking at decorating the tree that's at the end, but I think that we may be trimming, is what I'm hearing. So, and then eventually looking at, even though we probably will not be able to do this year, but actually having purchased a real tree that grows throughout the years that would be near our new city hall, and doing a tree lighting ceremony. And the thoughts on the tree lighting ceremony would include cocoa, and possible maybe handing out, we could get a donation for doing soup or something like that night. Again, bringing the community together so that we show the community that not only do we care, but that we are invested in brightening up our holidays in the future. This is going to be the initial start of this community, or this committee, and we would move forward from there. The current costs that we're looking at, as far as unfortunately the Christmas lights are not, Christmas lights are cheap, the actual products for the snowflakes are not as inexpensive, but we would be requesting up to 10, we may only get 8, okay? And it's also going to depend on lead times right now. That company did reach out to me, and they said that we've got to order soon if we're going to do it, because they're going to not be able to get them soon. So, so we would do those. We do one banner. That banner would go on that, not the street light, but the other side, that goes across the road, and that would be as you're coming into town on that direction. We were looking at doing the icicle lights on the one tree that's over by the sign, and then spiraling up the trunk some white lights. And then we wanted to get some wreaths that we would ask all the business owners, and they said they'd be going for this. They actually also offered to donate if we asked for it, for them to put a wreath that all the wreaths would match on their doors. So this, again, it's a theme of snowflakes, wreaths, something much more than what we have right now. Moving forward with the banners, you know, the banner posts, I've got an idea how we can make those for an inexpensive cost. We got the banners, and then we will need to do a boom rental in order to be able to put these up.
Can I ask what the parameters are as far as north and south?
Right now, we are trying to keep it a little small. So we would only go up to, I think it's the church, just before the church up here. 3rd Street, and then right before the bus station. We're kind of limited right now because not all the poles have electrical. places to plug into. I did reach out to Alliant to not only fix our poles, but then we're also looking at down the road, we would also put more of those up, but just timing wise, there's no way to do it all this year. But the good news is that, like I said, once we would get this in place, we would be able to make that, more congenial, so, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
banners, would this be when the snowflakes come down, the banners go up, or the banner holders go up?
The banner would be on the left side, the snowflake would be on the right of the pole.
Same pole, okay.
Same pole,
All right,
left, right. So the banner would always be up.
okay.
And again, they can be changed out, and I've got art skills, so as long as I produce something that's in a vector to him with my, with an Illustrator file, then he can create it. So that takes away the having to pay for the cost for somebody to design it for us, and it also takes away the cost for having to pick out something that's already made, or that, I mean, we pretty much can pull any image and I can recreate it. I know, I just added to my plan.
You're gonna put you on a banner.
He's gotta be in the parade,
Yeah, all of us.
the next step.
So, like I said, what we're looking for now, we're not saying we're gonna be spending 15,000 off the get-go, we're not, I mean, that's not it. The lights and everything, we will need right away, obviously, but we were just saying if we could, after my calculations, that would probably be the max we'd need to spend at this time. But that's gonna last us for this whole year coming up.
You're looking at what, 4,500 or so? Am I looking at this right? The banners and the posts?
Yeah, roughly,
Roughly, okay.
yeah.
Do we have any storage concerns, Scott? I mean, I know we've got the existing decorations that we can move out.
Yeah, they can go, and I don't think any of what he's talking about will cause a storage issue at all, I really don't. In fact, they'll be probably easier and more compact than what we do have currently.
How much money you talking about?
Just a cap of 15,000, so that would be no more than 15,000.
But that's over,
That's for everything you see. That's.
What fund are we gonna get this from?
We do have some funds that are available. The beautification fund still has some in it. We've also got some residual general funds that are not being used that I can pull from at this time. So there, I mean, I can get more specifics.
I guess I'd like to know where we're gonna get the money.
Okay.
Do you know how much is in beautification?
Right now, 2,136. And I know that there's, like I said, general fund's got some other funds that we can pull from. And that we're gonna have to do that, because I know I don't have that yet. Possibly I can do that. I don't have GLs in here though.
Because beautification we generally expend summerish, right, when the
Yeah,
garden
it's
club
usually
meets?
We're not using it, we're not using any more of it right now, as far as that's concerned.
And the 15,000 takes into account all the banners, not just
Right, it's,
the upcoming, so that's
so,
not an immediate.
so we're not even looking at, like, we would only need like 10 banners max right now. So you're looking at $20 a piece for 10 banners, that's $200. So, and then you're looking at, I'm sorry, that's my bad. That's for the posts, so $200 for the posts. You've got 10, so $950 for the banners.
It's
1100 there.
The snowflakes.
The snowflakes, if we went with 8 instead of 10,
how many do we put on now?
There's
Christmas.
11 decorations.
Okay, so 10,
Yeah,
10 within the realm, okay.
yeah.
you've got, yeah.
But we go past Roosevelt Street with those, so
Right.
that's, we just went off of when we got those, we went off of every pole. Not every pole has the ability to drop a 110 volt outlet off of it. And so we just went through Main Street and picked every pole that could have a outlet box on it, and we put an outlet box on it, so. that's why Alliant is gonna be key in this to try and put boxes on. And it sounds like his contact is saying they want to help towns do this sort of thing. So if we get an outlet on every pole that's in this more compact downtown area, to me, it makes a better display.
Closer together.
Right, they're closer together, you hit the display area and you're going through and you see all of the lights and then it's over, rather than strung out. And then also hanging them, you know, once, the initial's gonna take a little time. And it shouldn't ever be a problem unless he sells it, and even if he does, we can go rent from Cedar Rapids, but Dave Reed has the boom truck right here in town, so, that's not really an issue ever either. So we can do it safely, putting them up and down. Like I said, the initial to get the mounts on the poles in the right location will take a little time, but still not a hard job.
Well, and I'll echo what Chris said, it shows pride in the community. I'm gonna skip ahead just slightly to, you know, CIP review, and I know it was 5 years out, but we talked about Main Street, you know, reconstruction, beautification, really making it, you know, a place to gather, and that's 1.5 million. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the 15,000 looks like a drop in the bucket to get something done right now.
And I know, just in talking to the community, I mean, they are excited about this, but they're at the point where they're just, well, we'll believe it when we see it.
Show me the money.
I
Well,
literally
no, it's
had,
not to show me the money,
No,
it's
it's the
we'll
same
believe it
deal.
when you guys you do something. And I'm a little disheartened at the fact that that's their view, because to me, we should always be thinking about what can we do for the community. It's their tax dollars that we're, and this, we do a lot for them, don't get me wrong, but they don't see what we're doing in the infrastructure. They don't see what we're always doing behind the scenes.
you don't see all the buried stuff.
And the one thing about, you know, what we're talking about here with this urban life is it's the energy that goes into what they see makes an impact and says, yes, you know, we're doing something for you. And so that's,
Plus, I like the unification of our businesses, bringing them all together,
right,
building community there, because there's been
strife in that.
yes.
Would this be an acceptable use of local option sales tax?
I don't know the rules around that well enough to be able to answer that question.
We got that's for property tax relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, half of that's for property tax relief, isn't it? And what was the other for?
I'm trying to think, my memory isn't that good.
Well,
I
and
think
there's
it's
still
for
money
public
in the,
infrastructure, so it's
in-
probably a stretch.
yep, so that'd be a stretch, but we still have money in the equipment reserve,
We do have money in the equipment reserve
which is
fund.
does not have any restrictions basically as to how we spend it, so.
Well, from what I see, we're for, what more are we gonna spend here? It looks like we got about $1,500.
So it'll be a little more now, what'd you come up with for a number?
Like I said,
To do banners and the snowflakes?
for everything, it came up to 14,534.
That's, but we're not gonna get everything.
But we're not gonna get everything right now, we're not gonna get all the banners. I was just doing a quick run, 12,000 minimum to get this up and running.
I think we could probably, we sit down and take a look at, I don't have paperwork. We could look at it and see. I think we could probably find the money, so.
I know I can, and I can definitely make that more clear. Again, I mean, yeah, I know we have it, it's just a matter of what bucket I'm pulling it out of at this point. So, I just need a number to get to so that way we can start the process, because otherwise, we won't be able to do this year.
So where do we want that number to be?
Yeah,
You're saying like, what are we talking to get it off the ground?
Well, can I throw my 2
Go.
cents worth in? If he's talking 12,000 to get it off the ground and 15,000 does the job, I see no point in going to 12,000. You might as well just go to the 15,000.
I agree.
If we've got the flexibility to go to the 15, let's do it. I mean,
we have 1.77, so, yeah.
I
I can help
move
you, we can sit down and find a place for it.
Mm-hmm,
I'll help you do that,
okay,
or I'll do it.
I'll do it. I would like to help, yes.
So in your opinion, Chester, would we be in a position to approve?
The 15, I would say we can take it up somewhere.
So he could start the purchasing process. Well, the thing is, we probably wouldn't get invoiced before the next meeting when we'd have
Correct.
all of that figured out. so.
Correct. But I know on some of it, for lead time, it has to be ordered soon.
So I'll move to go ahead and, budget 15,000 for street decorations for the holidays.
Motion by Myers,
I'll second it.
second by Shantz. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Good work putting all that together, by the way.
Can I go back on this tree lighting thing? We talked about getting kids to sing, like we had in the past, and do chocolate or hot chocolate and cookies. Could we use the old fire station for that this year maybe?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we should be
We
able
used to do
to.
it, then COVID hit, and we never did it.
Should be no reason why not.
If not, we're gonna put a tree at the fire station and do it out there.
That means I gotta sweep it though, but I guess I can do that.
I got a
Make the
blow.
I got
kids do
some-
that.
I will help you sweep.
Park the skid loader in there, there's some mud on the floor, so, okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, and
we
even when
talked
City
about
Hall is there, I still see that being a place we can
Yeah.
gather.
I didn't know how the tree looked with that new digital sign sitting there. We take away from the tree or, you know.
And we've had, if we're going down this route just a little bit, we've had some concern from Lions Club members and et cetera with a $20-some thousand sign going up there. Does that ash tree need either to come down or a severe haircut in order to kind of help assure that we don't have a branch landing on a,
Oh,
I'm gonna table that for 2 seconds so we can get into CIP.
gotcha,
I wanna
we'll do
talk
that
about
as
that
a,
too.
not a problem.
So, but thank you. So, last item on the agenda is CIP review. So I did go through, we did this last year, which seems like not that long ago. I made some updates to timelines, as well as we had champions that are no longer on the council, and so primarily Mr. Myers volunteered to take anything that previous Councilor Menson was listed on. I didn't erase anything, I crossed everything off so we could see where those changes occurred, except maybe, you're right, Joe, I think for years I forgot to do that, but I updated it to December. I forgot to just cross it off. So, where we sit right now for our Tier 1 goals, remodel old fire station and relocate City Hall. We originally had a June 22, with everything we've learned with having to go out to bid and those types of things. We obviously have made progress. We're looking at June 23. I'm hopeful we can be in a good place. So I rounded that one up. Grant opportunities for a generator for the new fire station. I moved that out to March of 23, still something we need. I did get information over for the disaster recovery fund, so hopefully we can start looking at that. Inventory city fire department equipment, I believe that one is finished, so that's exciting. The follow-up piece to that is developing the replacement schedule, so we'll get with you, Steve, and just see how frequently we need to do the air packs and just set up some kind of system. Chris, I'm hoping you can help me with this, some kind of system where we get reminded, like, hey, let's put an expiration date on this, and then we'll get an email saying, hey, don't forget, put this on your agenda, because these things are expiring. I'm sure there's a way we can get that done with the Google Suite. Engage the engineering firm to evaluate street conditions. Yay, Chris, you got, check, that was delivered tonight, so all good there. Engage community to assess potential amenities for fire station park. We have done the engagement piece, so that goal has been met. We did the survey last year. We have those results, and then we have it as, the clerk and I have a goal this winter to start looking at, before budget season, to start looking at what it's actually gonna take to get that park put together. So similarly, now I wanna pull in your comment guide. I would love to see some kind of pocket park gathering near new City Hall. So now that can be a destination, so that taking that tree down could make sense if we put more amenities in there.
Is there any truth that tree has got that bug?
Ash borer, don't know. I need to have somebody smarter than me with trees look at it, which I have someone contacted to look at it. So, but it's, the leaves are gone in the top half of the tree, and the leaves that are on the bottom are bright green yet, so I don't know if that indicates anything, or if that's just the way they do it, but
I don't think ashes have the longest lives. I think they're,
Well, you know, a lot of cities have been active for the last 5 years getting rid of
they've
ash.
been taking them out no matter what
That's gonna be
condition they were in.
expensive. Might be
Coffee
the time
shop
to just
talk
consider.
says it's got ash borers in it.
Okay, yeah.
And it-
Whether that's true or not,
well, you're gonna have somebody look at it,
I'm gonna have somebody look at it,
and
yeah.
if it has a case of ash borers, that should be cited.
Well, I think no matter what, next week, we'll do some pretty major trimming anyway, so that there's no branches anywhere near anything that looks even slightly suspect near where that sign's gonna go. Which it probably needs trimmed up anyway, but, once,
can we get insurance on that sign?
yeah,
should be
yeah,
covered by
it
our
will
policy.
be insured, but,
Because their car could come by and ran into
oh, yeah, no, it's just that with a big old tree like that hanging over, of a species that is known to have a bug that tends to kill it, it would be silly not to try and protect it, cause then you have to go through trying to get the sign replaced. We've been waiting for months already to get the original sign, so,
And I think we've got the opportunity to use that space nicely
Absolutely.
as well, so.
and the landscaping is shot around there, it needs freshened up anyway, so.
So, Chris, I'd like to roll that into our, park discussion as if we can use that space for anything else as well. Develop enforcement related policies for common violations. I think this has turned into, we wrapped more of that into recodification. So Joe, I'll send you my notes
Okay.
that I had on the specific ones that we called out for late water accounts and sidewalk snow removal, because I think we've really built in the rigor in the code, rather than having to have policies that aren't near as transparent. So, I moved that out to December 22, because that's when I'm hoping we can have, that codification hopefully finalized. I don't know how long the contractor needs once we get it back to them. And then Chris got another easy one, engage engineering consultants to understand the water sewer capacity. So that was, the GIS mapping piece that Guy reviewed with us tonight. So that is completed. And then, yeah, for tier 2 goals, we've not really started addressing any of those. I left the timelines out to June of 23, so we can.
what about the website?
Yes.
Yeah,
So we will be making a move on the website. Were you here last month? Yep. I've not made the call yet, but we'll get that done. It should be a pretty quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I figured we were further along.
And who do you decide to go with?
GoDaddy.
good Eddie. Yeah, that was one of the reasons for moving to clerk books, is so that we could make that enhancement on that website to have a make a payment now button for the utilities. You will have to discuss though, because we'll also be able to take credit cards, is how do you wanna off that fee? So, but that'll be a later discussion on the road. But that is one of the things. And I will try to get some new pictures for you for your website so that it looks a little nicer. And I've got some really crazy ideas for that, so, yeah.
Perfect. So yes, we will be looking to make improvements. I still think in June of 23.
That's fair.
We'll make the transition before the end of the year, but the true improvements to be, mobile friendly and get updated content and all that stuff is probably June of 23. So then I'm gonna scroll down, when we get to the actual capital improvement plan, which is page 9. This is where the money comes into play, and so some of that feeds off of HR Green's discussion tonight. So we're looking at fiscal year at this point. I was able to, I didn't adjust the water meter goal for this year because I wasn't sure exactly how many we did or what that cost was, so I just left that one alone. But you'll notice we had planned every fiscal year to do 50 water meters at $10,000. With the ARPA funding that we received as a city, we were able to accomplish that goal in one foul swoop. So those have been crossed off and the amount adjusted for fiscal year 24 and going forward. Doesn't free up a lot, but it definitely helped to get that achieved a lot faster. So I don't need to read through all of these. Medical response truck is still on here, Steve, so we'll just keep an eye on what the department wants to do with that.
I can't get him to decide, so.
What's that?
So I can't get him to decide, so.
I need to come to a meeting.
So that's medical truck or what, pump, what we talk, pump, or
That's
water, tank truck, right?
Well, that cost was just medical truck, cause it's gonna be the cost of a standard pickup with a little extra equipment on it.
Okay.
Fiscal year 25 is when we looked at replacing the actual
Okay.
fire truck. And with what, that would be a discussion for them, so. Yeah, otherwise, I think we're pretty well in line, we're definitely knocking some goals off, and so what I'd ask is, you know, as we rotate out of fiscal year 23, start looking at adding that year on the end, so we're always on that 5-year rotation. So what do these new projects look like, and what do we wanna accomplish? So, I'll get with Chris and see if we need to do another goal setting session, or how we wanna get that information, but you've got the updates now, so look them over and we'll talk about it again. Any questions on the CIP? Alright. Hearing none, we go to final comments. I'll start to my right with Counselor Drummond.
Nothing to add.
Counselor Thomas? Counselor Myers?
I really like having the Chromebook. I like being able to Google something like the longboard,
Yeah,
right in the middle of, so I'm like, don't have to try to figure out what they saw that I didn't see. I really like that. I'm a very instant research type person when I don't know something.
And with some of these meetings, this is gonna save us hundreds of pages of paper just in a month. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had
Oh
some
my
packets
Yeah,
that
this
are-
one was like 49 pages, so if you times that times 8 that I usually was printing before,
Well,
like, our printing costs and our paper costs are gonna be.
Yeah, once
it is 49 for the packet. It would have been 50, an additional 50 with
HR Green's
the HR
report.
Green report.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So that's 100 pieces of paper that we didn't have to
well, that's
worry
Turn
about
around and
a
every
recycle.
ream of paper
cycle.
right here, right?
right,
Yeah.
so,
so we will be saving a lot.
That's awesome.
good call.
But that's all I've got.
Alright. Clerk, any final comments?
No comments.
Public Works? Chief? Alright. With that, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trump,
Second.
second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
What do you need us to do